Dear participants, I welcome all of you in this lecture of programming in Python. In this particular lecture, we'll discuss different data types which are available in Python, and we'll discuss input output as well as far as programming in Python is concerned. So just to revise what we have seen in last lecture. So we discussed need of probability and definition of probability and the application of probability in data science in case of designing a model or selecting a sampling and so on. We have seen conditional probability as well, and one more extension in the form of Bayes theorem, which is actually used in naive Bayes model. So these all have been discussed in last class. And in the current week, we'll discuss different data types available in Python. We'll discuss input-output functions, operators, and we'll discuss decision making as well. And finally, we'll discuss functions, how to define function, how to call functions, and how the parameters are passed in functions. So all we will discuss as far as programming in Python is concerned. And in this current lecture, we'll discuss data types, identifiers and variables, and input and output functions. So in real life, the type of data being utilized does not need to be taken into account, right? When we are speaking and we are, writing a letter, so we do not consider whether the type of data. But when we are performing certain, when we are using any programming language, so we need to discuss different data types, right? So in a programming language, following concepts of data are important. That is type of data, data type, and operations on data. So what operations are valid on those type of data? Like say if the data is a string, so we can calculate, we can apply operations such as pattern matching and finding substring and comparing, two strings. But when we are considering integer data type, so pattern matching is not very a valid operation. Although we can, compare one integer to another integer, but pattern matching is not as such. Similarly, string is not valid for integer as well, right? So, like in this case, the division of an integer by integer is valid. The division of a string by any string is not valid. So, this operation is not valid as far as string is concerned. Every variable in Python is an object. Object, it means it is an instance of a particular class, right? We'll discuss what is object class in a separate lecture. But as of now, you need to know that each and every variable is having object. If a variable is object, it means there are certain available functions which there are certain functions are available which can operate on those object. Like if you are declaring a variable string, right? So length is a function. The length function can be applied to string. Similarly, if you are having list type of data, then you can apply sum. So there are several functions that can be applied on those objects. Data type ensure the kind of data to be stored and operations on data. Let's say here variable 1 is having 45 as an integer value. So if you want to categorize different data types, so Python data types are having numeric, Boolean, sequence, collection. So under numeric, you are having integer data type, then complex data type, float, and let me select the pen. Float, complex, integer. So under numeric. So under Boolean, there is only single data type. As far as sequence is concerned, we are having a string, tuple, list that we'll discuss in separate class. Similarly, very important data type which are set and dictionary under collection data type. So these are very important data types. Now we'll discuss the numeric data type. Under numeric data type, we are having integer, float, and complex number as well. So integer comprise whole numbers. It can be defined directly or using integer function. So here is an example. You can write a is equal to 2, so automatically a will be treated as an integer, and you can also use integer keyword to declare an integer type of variable. Similarly for float, so float can be declared using like in this case a is equal to 2.3, or using the keyword float you can declare the float number. Optionally, the character you can use character E or E followed by a positive or negative number that may be appended to a specific scientific notation for performing certain scientific computation. Like in this case, C is equal to 1.23 E6. So it means it is actually the number is 1.23 into 10 to the power 6. So this is the number. So we can write this number in this particular format in Python. So if you are declaring a variable as C is equal to 1.23 E6, so it is actually the Python will treat this number in the form 1.23 into 10 to the power 6, right? And similarly, if we are having D is equal to 1.234 E minus 7, so it is actually the number is 1.23 into 234 into, sorry, it is 4 into 10 to the power minus 7. So in this way, you can declare the variable in Python. Similarly, very important data type, that is complex. So like in C, C++, there is no such data type. So Python has introduced a very useful data type as far as complex number is concerned. So it comprises a real part and imaginary part. So as far as complex number is concerned, it could have real part as well as the imaginary part. So it can be defined directly or using the complex function. So if you want to declare directly, so just you need to write in this format, a plus 2j. So q would be treated as a complex number, right? And you can write in this format as well, p is equal to complex 2 comma 3. It means it would be treated as p is equal to 2 plus 3j, right? So in this way you can declare complex variable. Now, as far as Boolean data type is concerned, so Boolean variable may have values either true or false. So it can be defined directly or using Boolean function. So there are two different ways, like integer, float. Boolean can also be declared directly or using function Boolean, that is for Boolean. So like in this case, you can see it is a valid since all non-zero numbers are actually true, like in this case. So Boolean 97 will be treated as true, Boolean 0 will be considered as a false, and Boolean empty, it's actually an empty string, so it is considered as false. So again you can declare true value using Boolean true, similarly Boolean false, and you can directly declare a Boolean variable in this case in this manner. V6 is equal to true, so V6 is actually a Boolean variable having true value. One thing is important here, like in this case V8 is equal to true, so it is in quote actually. So this is not a V8 is not a Boolean variable, but it is a string here. Similarly, in this case, V10 is a string here, not a Boolean variable, because it has been used in quotes. Now, what is identifier in programming language? An identifier is a user-defined name to identify variable, function, class, modules, and other objects like packages and so on. So identifier is used to identify these important objects, variable, function, class, module. So the rules to define identifiers are same as for the variables. So what are the rules of for defining identifier? So We'll first see what is the rule for variables, and the same rule is applied to the identifiers as well. So a named, what is variable? A named location memory that can hold a value of a given type. Suppose you have declared a is equal to 3, right? So this is a variable actually. A is a variable that can hold a value of 3. And how to declare variable names? So there are certain rules. It can only contain letters, numbers and underscore. So you can write A1, it's a valid identifier, right? Or A underscore, it is again a valid identifier. It cannot start with a number, so this is not a valid identifier. This is not a valid identifier. 1A or 2A, this is not a valid identifier. Can be arbitrarily long, so you can define a long variable name, but it is not advisable. Keep it as per your choice and as per your understanding. Cannot be keyword, so you cannot use keyword for declaring variable. Like I should not use integer 3. It means integer keyword should not be used. Good variable name consists of descriptive names and consistent. Descriptive name, it means by looking on a variable, you should at least guess what is the purpose of this variable, and it should be throughout the programming language for a particular project. The name should be in consistent form. Now, there is one more data type, separate data type, that is called a string. A sequence of characters enclosed in single or double quote, or in triple quotes, you could say quotation marks, can be defined directly or using the string class. So we can define string in different manner, like in this case, So the example is this is the string, this is again a string. So all these are strings. Again, this one is a string, so these are empty strings. So these are empty strings. So how can you define? So S is equal to, suppose I am writing daily. So S is a string here. So this is a string type of data. S is a string type of variable, you could say. It is containing string data. So in this way, you can declare a string variable. And length can also be used to compute the length of a string. So if you want to find out the length of this variable, so I will just write length S. So it will give me the length of this variable S. String operators, there are certain string operators that you can apply to concatenate. If you want to concatenate to a string, or if you want to join 2 or more strings, just write plus. Right, like in this case. So what would happen? It's all will be clubbed, all will be joined, right? And the beauty with this plus would be, I can use single variable to display the whole joined strings. So if I will write print A, so it will give me how are you, right? With no space, right? So if you want to include some space in this also, so what I will do? I will just write after plus, I will write certain spaces as well. Give one space. Similarly, after how, after or, after you. So in this case, you can add a spaces. And there is one repetition operator. String can be repeated using the multiplication sign. So if you are writing hello, Python is amazing. So and into 3. So it will be repeated 3 times. Hello, Python is amazing. Then hello, Python is amazing. And again, hello, Python is amazing. So this is the way. There is one problem. Write a program to print your full name using a single print statement. And there is one more problem, that is write a program to compute the value of following algebraic expression. Ax square. So you need to find out ax square plus bx plus c, right? Ax square plus bx plus c, where a is actually 5 and b is -4 and c is 2, and considered value of x is as a 13. Since we are not at this moment we are not accepting value from user. Later on, we'll discuss how can we take input from user as well. Now, I will try to open ideally where I will show you how you can solve this particular problem, right? The problem number 2. Problem number is very simple. Just use print and you can display your full name. Let me open the IDLE. So here I have opened IDLE, and if you want to print your name, just write print your full name. Suppose I am printing my full name Faisal, and plus I will give some space here so that between my first name and second name there should be some space. Then I write Anwar, and so this is the way you can write, and you can display your name. And now I will write, I will try to solve the second problem, that is you need to find out value of expression ax square plus bx plus c. Let me open new file, and here I will write a has been considered as 5, and consider b as -4, and then consider c as 2, and you need to find out and again x has been given as 13 here. Now you need to find out result. Let me write result res, just supposing result a into x into x. So this is actually ax square, right? Plus b into x, and then plus c. B into x plus c. And let me execute this one. To execute this Python file, I will use run module. And first I need to save this source file. So I am storing it here. I'm saving at desktop, and test, just write test, and there is no such result, right? So because I have not printed the result, let me write print result of this expression is and comma res. So in this way you can display the result, run module, and the result of this expression is 795. So in this way you can write a simple program. Let me again come to the PPT. So we have seen how can we write Python program for this problem. Now we'll discuss how to take input from the user and how to display it, right? We have already seen how to display using the print statement, and we'll see how we can take data from user. So for that purpose, Python function is there, that is input. To get input function is there to get the input from the user, and that input function is this one. Just let me open. So this is the input function, right? So in this manner you can take the input from the user, right? Just name is equal to input, please enter your name. So a statement will be displayed, that is please enter your name, and once you provide the name, that will be stored in this variable, right? That is name. And similarly you can write name is equal to input. In this way there won't be any message, like the previous case we have got a message that please enter your name, but in this case you will not there won't be any message, and you need to provide the data, right? That will be stored in the in this variable, that is name. How to convert value to string to integer? Suppose you are trying to find out the average of 5 numbers which are being supplied by the user, right? But as far as input function is concerned, input actually take string values only. So to take numeric value to or integer value, you need to typecast it. Typecast it means you are converting type of variable, data type of one variable to another data type. So string values can be converted into integer using the function like in this case. So this can be converted 10 which is coming as a string, since this is actually string. So this can be converted to integer via this function. But this won't be typecasted because this is not a string, since it is a float type of data. So in this case, and it is actually a string, the whole is a string. So it would give you an error. The integer function returns an error if string is not the sequence of digits without decimal point actually. First, read the string using input function and convert it into integer using the int function. So that is the target. If you want to convert, if you want to take, integer variable, so first you need to take as a string and then you need to convert it. So like in this case, you take the value and convert it into integer format. And you can directly club these two statements into a single statement, like in this manner. Very soon I will come to the IDLE and I will try to show you all these. And similarly, you can convert a string to float and the function is float. In this way, you can convert a string into float. If float is read as input, then convert it into float using the float function similar to integer. Like in this case, you can convert this value to float, or you can club all these into a single statement as we did in integer. And there is one way to read multiple strings, right? Suppose you want to read 3 strings at a time or 4 strings at a time. So this is the simple way of reading multiple strings. So here input, in this case, this input will be supplied to X, and this input will be supplied to Y, and this input will be supplied to Z. So you need to provide 3 different values. User need to provide 3 different values, and that will be stored in X, Y, Z respectively. Or you can perform, you can write another single input and take whole 3 data, like in this case, whole 3, let's say you are storing 3 different strings, right? And you supplied using the single input function, and then you can split it. So split will actually generate 3 different strings. Suppose you pass and Aligarh Muslim University. So once you will split it, so X would Aligarh would be stored in X, Muslim would be stored in Y, and university would be stored in Z. So in this way, you can store in a single statement. Otherwise, you can use loop as well, but at this moment we have not studied loop, so I'm not using this one. But the best option in case if you need to read multiple input from the user, so best way is to use the loop. So we'll see in some other class how to use loop. Reading multiple integers, how you can read multiple integers. So again, you need to typecast it to integer, like in this case I have used. You have typecast it. Or you can, if you are using a single statement, first you need to split it and then convert individual typecast individual element into integer, right? So this is another way. So we have seen how to read. There is one more option that you can use. That is this particular function, read line and then split. And there is one more function, that is map. You need to provide it. How do you want to map these splitted data? So we want to map it to integer. So you can also use this particular method to store integer value that is being supplied by the user into 3 different variables, right? So this is one more way. Similarly, the case with the float as well. The similar manner in which we have stored integer, in which we have receive the data from the user. Similarly, you can use the similar functionality as far as float value is concerned. So this is the multi-line inputs, and this is the single line input, and here you need to use the split function. Similarly, you can use this manner as well. Here you need to import sys as sys, and this way you can apply the function. There is a example here, exercise. So write a program to read 5 real numbers from user and find the average and standard deviation. So you have to read 5 real numbers and you need to find out the average and standard deviation. Similarly, there is one more problem. Write a program to compute the value of following algebraic expression and find out the value of 1 plus x divided by y plus x to the power y divided by 2 plus 5 by x plus y to the power x. So I will try to show you how this can be solved in this lecture. Let me use ideally. So I have opened a separate file here, and I need to read 5 different inputs. I need to find out average as well as standard deviation. So how can we find out 5 different integers? The best way is to use loop, but at this moment we have not used loop construct. So I'm just storing all these into 5 different variables. Let's say the variables are x1, comma x2, comma x3, comma x4, comma x5, right? And then use input value of x1, and then typecast it. Since I am expecting integer, typecast it and write 5 similar type of statements here. But you know, it would take a very long statement. So what we can do, better we can use single statement and just typecast it, right? So I will write input provide 5 different values, 5 different or similar values. It could be similar values as well. So and then a split, right? So in this case, so x1 would have a string value, x2 would have a string value. I have already told you. Input actually written string value. So I need to typecast it. So what I will do, right? I will write x1 is equal to int and then x1 again. So it will typecast it to integer, and then I will write this comma, this comma, this comma 5 times, right? And I will just replace, sorry, I write to this one, and I will try to replace it with x2, x4 and then x5. So here is x1, then x2 and x2, then x3. So I'm typecasting all the individual variables here, right? And then x5, right? Now take the average. I can write for average is equal to, right, x1 plus x2 plus x3 plus x4 plus x5, right, and divided by 5. So this will give me average. As far as standard deviation is concerned, so how we calculate standard deviation. So standard deviation is square root of x minus x bar square and summation I is equal to 1 to n and divided by n, right? So we can use x1 minus I will write x1 minus average. I will average, right? I will store it in x1 avj. I'm giving a name average and calculate it. Just multiply again with this number. So multiply again with this number x1, deviation of x1 with average, and take square, right? So in this way I will take I will perform the same for all 5 variables, right? So x1 average and then x2, deviation of x2 from the average, and multiply with the same number x3 minus average, then x3, and then here is x4 and x4, x5 and x5. So now as far as standard deviation is concerned, so it is actually sqrt math dot there is a module math dot sqrt. To use this square root function, I need to import math, right? And then math square rt and x1. Let me copy this one. Let's copy this one. x1 score average and x plus x2 dot average. X2 average, and then plus x3 and x4, and then again x5, right? And divided by 5 actually, and take square root of whole, right? So in this way you can calculate. So a standard deviation is deviation of x1 from average with its square, this one. And what is the deviation of x2? So x2 minus average, and again multiply with this x2 average into x2 minus average, right? So this will give me a deviation of x2 and then squaring it similarly for all and divided by 5 and take square root of whole. So it will SD here in this manner. I can calculate the standard deviation. Now I will print it. So average of 5 numbers are what is that? Average. And I will write one more print statement. A standard deviation of 5 numbers. A standard deviation of 5 numbers is and this is standard deviation, right? SD. So in this way you can calculate. Let me execute this one. Run model. Provide 5 different values. So I'm providing 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, right? It has given me error here since x3 average is not defined. So there is, let me check why there is error. So here it is, sorry, I should use here x3, x4, x5, and x4, x5 minus average, and x1 average, x4. I think it's okay now. Actually you used to learn from errors as well. Let me save this one and again come to the, now I am executing this one, run module. Now it is asking 5 different values. I am providing, let's say 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12, right? Again, what it says, name average is not defined. So average is not defined in this case. What is the problem? Average. So like this one, I have spelled it wrong. Average, this one. So you can see what are different type of. So if you are not declaring the proper variable, I mean, I've used average like in this case. So similar, in case of displaying the value, I should use the similar variable, right? Let me again run and let's see whether it works or not. 3, 5, 7, 9 and 11. No, it finally works. So you can observe average of 5 numbers is 7.0 and standard deviation of 5 numbers is actually it should be is 2.8284. Let me correct this one. This is actually is, right? Again, run this one, this model, provide some different value, 4, 8, 10, 12 and then 44, right? So this is the value. So in this way you can write and program and compile your program, right? Let me come to the PPT now. Now you can solve this second problem as well, right? First calculate x divided by and x to the power 5. If you are calculating x to the power y, there is a power function which is actually POW. Let me write that function, POW x comma y. So in this way you can calculate value of x to the power of y. Sorry, erase this one and right. So power x of y is actually similar to x to the power 5. So in this way, in Python, you need to use this function to calculate power. So just to summarize what we have seen different data types. We have seen identifiers, what are different identifiers and what are the rule behind mentioning identifiers. We have seen variables and certain input-output functions as well. Thank you so much for joining this session. We'll meet again in next class. Thank you.